The most favorite would be GPT-3 model. It's very difficult to argue with Jan LeCun's IT knowledge that is kind of something super um normal, I guess, for Indians to own.
So I think one
Yep.
my first question to you is uh, how the whole AI space evolved in 2020, and this has been a very tremendous turbulent year, so to say, for various reasons, and especially for the pandemic. But given this, the technology space has evolved, and there's a lot of innovations which has happened. But according to you, in the AI space, what have you seen specifically, broadly evolving for the?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Bhasker. Uh, the pandemic actually had a huge impact on AI space, and a lot of people are kind of watching the disruption that has happened because of the pandemic, and we can look at it from different perspective. So one way, it kind of made a lot of models go wrong, and because of the specific new situation, many of the predictive models and applications um, couldn't actually perform as accurate as they used to be. So let's say the buying patterns of the customers changed a lot because they might wanted to um, buy more food and have some kind of stocks at home just in case that there is a lockdown, or um, they weren't going out as much as they used to. So that's kind of one of the effects, the major effects in AI space that like you don't um, actually expect. And a lot of scientists, AI experts predict that this change and this impact will actually be more than just the pandemic time, and it will be kind of forever, because it seems that the pandemic changed the digital world in a better reason or worse forever. And people working from home, or the way that we're interacting with online platforms, um, that kind of changed the whole dynamics, which will not go back to the same days. And that's a kind of bad news for AI, because AI is always reliant on the past. So if you're always relying on the past, something so disruptive and new will definitely make our predictions go wrong. But on the other hand, because we are going online more and we are generating a lot more digital footprints, we're actually interacting more with these algorithms, which will generate new data for AI systems, for machine learning models. And in one sense, that's a good news for AI, because imagine people buying more from like Amazon or other online platforms, and these um, platforms will gather a lot more data that will be later used to um, train the models. So that's, from one sense, it's a good way um, to digitally transform the space. And a lot of people predict that that will have high impact um, on accelerating AI adoption. The other one, I guess, as I said, from different perspective, we can look at this. So there's another negative impact, which will be the impact, like you can say, um, it is indirect impact. So the pandemic impacted highly on economy, and a lot of companies are kind of having difficulty um, paying for their R&D projects, and are for some reasons a lot of AI projects are still on the R&D space, and that's just a very very negative um, impact of this pandemic, because then you don't have much money to develop further futuristic and experimental projects. Yeah, as I said, like the investments on AI projects, as much as you would imagine, um, wouldn't be impacted, but it is still negatively impacted, and many startups are having difficulties raise money for their projects. So all in all, if you put them all together, I think the landscape is positive, especially by um, the digital transformation acceleration that happened through this time. And we will see in 2021, things will drastically be move faster forward.
During the pandemic, a lot of the earlier models almost failed, right? So let's say, for example, if I have been a buyer who usually did brick and mortar buying and never went to e-commerce, now all of a sudden I am doing a lot of e-commerce buying, and somehow those models were not able to take care of my preferences, etc. And if you look at it on an aggregate level, this would have a very, very high impact. Given this situation, given that this new normal and the model building and the data that it used to consume, what is the way ahead? Will this be a new model tuning where which is required, newer set of data which has to be inserted into these models? How would different companies react to that?
Yeah, exactly. That's the difficult part of it, because we don't know how much of this impact is going to be permanent and will stay after pandemic. So if you look at like the change of the lifestyle, we are not much using the public transport or even transport right now, but we definitely will see people going back to using the transport after the pandemic, after the lockdown. So it's just different based on the industry. And as you just mentioned, that like the online shopping has kind of been revolutionized during this pandemic. Like all these retailers were hiring, which is kind of opposite what you're seeing in the other industries. And also like social media platforms, they got a lot of uptake. A lot of people started generating more content, and um, then because of that, a lot of other manufacturers started selling a lot of goods related to content production, like the microphones and more kind of high-end video recorders and settings were uh, became popular, and kind of it was difficult to um, find something available during the pandemic, because I actually wanted to upgrade my settings, and I wanted to buy a high quality microphone, which is this one I'm using right now, but I had to wait a couple of weeks to receive this, which wasn't the case before pandemic. So that's the difficulty, is to understand how much of these uptake will remain. And then based on that, you need to tweak your models um, to be more um, updated based on the um, current data. And like platforms like Netflix probably will have some similar kind of uptake. People will stay engaging with the material that they like to watch, but for some of them may not be as you know as the same.
as you rightly pointed out, that we are seeing lesser money now chasing some very interesting, innovative AI startups around the world. But at the same time, you see Snowflake's coming out with one of the biggest tech IPOs ever, and some other tech firms also coming out with their IPOs, etc. Why is this there? There's this anomaly, right? So there's this tech firms who are either coming out with IPO, or there are M&As which are happening for sure, which is there is money floating around in the market. But at the same time, some of the very innovative early stage startups are not getting as much of the fundings.
So what happens here is that based on my observation, it seems that investment kind of becomes more, um, I guess, defensive and less risky. So they would rather to pay for something that they know that it works and it's already working, like Snowflake, which is like an easy kind of investment. And more riskier projects like startup that you have no idea how it's going to end up in the next couple of months would be probably less priority at this point. And everybody wants to play safe. I mean, definitely, I can't say everyone, but most of the investors wants to play safe, and that's not something that the startup um, world would like to see, because we all know that in order to have a very dynamic and lively startup environment, you need to um, accept a lot of risk. And as much as founders, co-founders, entrepreneurs are accepting those risks by, investing a lot of time and effort and maybe even money, you need to have the whole ecosystem working together. And one of them, which is the major one, is the fundings, which is not as easily accessible at this point.
Are you following any AI startup very closely?
Yeah, I'm watching the space right now. The couple of good projects happening in the different countries. Um, I wouldn't say startups are driving many major projects, but I'm mostly watching OpenAI and major corporates uh, like Facebook and Google, which they have a lot of interesting projects on the pipeline, and also they publish a lot of articles, I guess weekly, and that's the most interesting most interesting development that I see in the AI world right now.
I'll come to both of it, but in terms of projects, if you have to pick up for 2020, for this year, your five picks of best or your most favorite AI projects, what would those be?
Yeah, definitely. Like without a question, the most favorite would be GPT-3 model um, that was released by OpenAI a couple of months ago, and that kind of revolutionized the way that we're looking at the natural language generation projects, natural language processing projects. And even though it is not widely used right now, but still the pet projects and little passion projects that has been released were like revolutionary. The couple of them were like generating um, Python code or AI model just by using the natural language itself, and it was super accurate POC, which was um, kind of surprising for everyone, including myself. And we can see that this is probably the closest thing we can have to AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. And we are hoping to see the same thing happening for the um, like graphics models and um, in that area space as well, which is not as probably as accurate as the natural language at this point.
Over the period of time, over last 1 year, apart from GPT-3, what may be other projects that you saw and you said, "Wow, this is interesting. Oh, wow, I never thought it like this," or "This I never thought it
Yes,
could happen."
couple of weeks ago, I think probably like about a month ago, a very large venture capital in US contacted me on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, let's have a chat. And during the chat, they let me know that they're following my post very, very closely. They actually have one person following it and kind of following on the projects that I share, and find those people and ask them to pitch for the funding. And two of them actually received the funding from that venture
Wow.
capital, which was amazing. I was like, I didn't know that you need to give me some kind of commission, which I'm joking. But anyway, it was amazing to see that they can receive that kind of value, which I didn't know that kind of thing would exist. I was like, it's a passion project for myself. I would share it with anyone who is interested to learn more about AI innovations, and maybe it will um, inspire some future entrepreneurs or data science learners to do something interesting or to try to mimic some of those um, um, projects. But you can see some interesting outcomes may come out of these posts as well. So that was very um, that was a great outcome. But apart from that,
Did you
um,
get to know what were those two projects that got funded?
no, they didn't tell me exactly what was those companies. For some reason, I didn't even follow up on that. Uh, it was just great to have this acknowledgement. And yeah, apart from that one, I guess I get a lot of these kind of comments that like people um, either get inspired or get connected to those startups and do some sort of business with them as well. And as you said, one of the projects that I was very um, excited by was the AI and AR application, which you can take a photo of any object and then paste it into your digital system in your laptop, or you can have it in your phone. And that was quite an interesting project. So you could just literally take a photo of your room, and there was your couch there, and it will cut and paste the couch into your slides just on real time. And I
Yes, I've seen
haven't
that.
personally used that application, but it is available for testing and beta release. Probably there are a little bit of experimentation going on, which is fine. There's like always there is a um, step forward until you get to the final result. But that's something I'm still um, following to um, see the final result and how it is developing. Um, yeah, I guess like as I said, there are many of them that I personally get interested, and I usually share the ones that is interesting for me. Um, and and I'll also follow up on the project sometimes to see how it will end up um, being either released as a product, or it will stay as a kind of a passion experimental project.
Though it was a big deal, I think one of the biggest projects which was released, and it was met with a lot of fanfare. Everybody spoke about it. Everybody was trying to get its hand on its license. I didn't get one till now, so But there are a lot of people who were trying to get their license to create something. A lot of people did create something out of it. I mean, there are a lot of those
Yes,
passion projects that people have created out of GPT. But at the same time, a lot of people also pointed out or quoted and posted on different platforms that the 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 amount of publicity which GPT-3 which is receiving right now is it's not due that. It's not as good as it is being portrayed to be. And Jan LeCun had a very large post about it very recently, kind of saying that it's good, but it's not that super good.
that's right. No, so that's kind of, it's very difficult to argue with Jan LeCun. So I don't go that way, but I can just say that it's always like a step forward, right? The difference between this and previous models are kind of significant. It's just a significant step forward. And if there is any hype generated just because of that um, leap forward, um, that's not necessarily a negative thing or cannot reflect on OpenAI itself. I would say just the public right now are hungry for um, some high impact and easy to use projects, which is not something we will see a lot right now. I mean, like for example, these companies like Nvidia, Tesla, they're doing a lot of things here and there and complex things with their software and hardware together integrated, but it's not available for a lot of people and not tangible. So OpenAI just made something which is not very difficult to use, yet the um, the impact is very easy to understand. So that made it super popular super quickly. And I know we always need to have a reality check, and I don't have any problem with that. But it's still, I am a person that is fan of innovation and would like to encourage more innovation. So I don't mind to give it a little bit more credit um, and help it to um, get there somehow by leveraging more of the publicity.
GPT-3, there was another controversy which got open, which was around OpenAI. So the whole thing was OpenAI started as a non-profit, but then there's some bit of profit bit which is coming in picture right now. It kind of also licensed GPT-3's code with to Microsoft, and that was against a good monetary value. How do you see this specific controversy as a whole?
Um, I'm not receiving anything from OpenAI. I don't know any of them. So that's if I say something positive or negative about them, there is no relation. It's just my own opinion. Um, what is happening is that uh, most of these companies that want to do something cutting edge and um, something that can stay for a very long time, they cannot stay for non-for-profit for very long. Either they shouldn't start it, which is, I guess, that's the reflection for OpenAI to start as a non-for-profit. It is not possible to stay alive in this competitive world without money, without a lot of money, and especially in that cutting edge area that they were going to compete and work. And um, I guess they were not very business savvy when they started. They were probably a bunch of scientists. They wanted to do something for good, but then the hard reality uh, probably hit after some time, and they thought, all right, we do need some money for the purpose. Um, I'm not sure if they're 100% commercial, but I know that they are probably profit for purpose, which is a little bit different from a 100% commercial company like Microsoft and all these other corporates. Uh, that means that they will generate some income to make sure that they can push through um, their projects. But I cannot um, comment more about it because I don't have a very in-depth kind of understanding of their current business model.
Point that at the end of it, developing good products on AI or got good research on AI takes a large monetary value. It costs a lot. And that's where I think my next question, or my next thought process is that at the end of it, a lot of people say, and a lot of critics say that at the end of it, AI would be controlled, governed, or owned, so to say, by only large firms.
Yeah.
So, and we are seeing it to a large extent already. So, for example, right now, some of the biggest open source projects or the libraries in Python which developers use are by large firms. So TensorFlow is by Google, PyTorch is by Facebook, and these are right now ruling the ground. And if you see, and if you pick up some of the biggest projects in AI, these are being done by these large firms, be it Nvidia, Intel, Microsoft, Google is on the forefront, etc. Is it how it's going to be? Would there be any space for startups, smaller firms to really rule the AI space?
Gets back to regulations. I guess um, the current regulations that I can see around the world in general uh, is highly beneficial for large corporates to win the race. And that's just one of the reasons, just because they have access to a lot of data, and that data would enable them to stay ahead of the others. As you just mentioned correctly, Google is pretty much on the forefront. And why is that? It's not a very difficult answer, because they have access to all the search and information that we are generating online. And that's not something that any other companies can have access, right? The same for Facebook. If you think about it, they own the largest, I guess, there's three largest social media platforms, because they own Instagram, they own Facebook, and WhatsApp, and maybe a couple of others which I don't remember. But all these data are helping them to understand more and more about people, and then generate more accurate algorithms, which and no startup can generate. So it's not about the algorithm itself. It's more about the if you think about the triangle, we have data, algorithm, and the processing power. And if they're dominating two of them, the only thing remains is the algorithm. And that's actually, to be very honest, in my opinion, it's not very significant part of the equation.
Uh, have you also been following some of the Indian companies? If you are, which of those are those companies that you are following?
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. I do have noticed that a lot of my connections and followers are from India, and that's not actually very unusual because of the population and the IT knowledge that is kind of something super um, normal, I guess, for Indians to own, and you won't see the same thing across other nations probably. Um, but at the same time, I was actually following Indian companies as well. Recently, I organized a hackathon in the APAC region, and that hackathon was sponsored by, partnered by NASCOM in India, which is probably the largest IT society in India. And I do have good relations with a couple of companies, specifically TCS and Infosys. I know they're competitors, but anyway, I do have a lot of friends in both companies. Um, 2 years ago, I was lucky to be chosen as uh, um, recipient of NASCOM award for innovation, and for that um, I got to visit India, which was amazing trip for me. I went to like a couple of cities, like 5, 6 different cities, and also I got to visit some of the IT IT companies' offices, um, specifically TCS Chennai, which was a huge office. It's like amazing large campus. I think a couple of thousand people were working there, and I haven't seen anything similar to this in Australia. So yeah, I do have some connections and relations, and follow the space as well. And yeah, in general, I would say India is doing a great job in IT world, as we all know, having a lot of IT professionals and IT service providers in India. Um, I'm not 100% convinced that it is the same for AI as well. It seems that just based on my observation, which is not the deepest one about um, India, I don't call myself an expert by any kind of definition, but I think it seems that they're lacking a little bit of maybe investment in the deep tech, especially in the AI world. I don't recall seeing a lot of cutting edge projects coming out. I do know that they're involved with a lot of projects, but um, not something super innovative, mostly, I guess, servicing and helping other companies to, produce the product, either in a service or maintenance, or some kind of collaboration. And I guess probably there are also some regulation issues as well about the data itself, because AI is highly reliant on data, and many countries, they want to own their own data and they don't want to share it with other countries. And that's something super normal. I know that Australia, for example, doesn't allow any companies to share Australian citizens' data outside to store Australian citizens' data outside Australia, or to use and share it with other countries. It's something that's very sensitive, and I'm not 100% sure about it, but I think India may need a little bit more kind of privacy and some kind of data policy regulations to help that kind of relation with other countries, to bring in the data and help them um, to shape better, more interesting AI projects.
But at the same times, you rightly said that there are a lot of people who are working into IT space and they want to get into AI space. And I'm sure that you might be getting a lot of these queries over LinkedIn and other spaces, that how do I make a career in this space? I am a beginner in this space, and how do I create a career in ML and AI? So what advice do you have for those early beginners?
Yeah, you rightly mentioned a lot of people ask me the same question about how to get into the break into data science or AI, and it just is a bit difficult to just make it in one kind of a process for everyone, because people are different, and also um, AI and data science by itself can um, have different roles and different roadmaps for each person, individual person. So that's very, very tough um, come up with a secret kind of pathway that everyone can follow and become successful. I would just try to um, say something that makes sense in most of cases. And I would say just make sure you start with learning Python, and that's the language you want to learn at this point if you want to enter the space in data science and AI. I don't have any problem with R, MATLAB, or SAS, or whatever other languages. You can learn it later down the track if you like to. Um, and then from there, after you understand the language itself, it's better learn machine learning by projects rather than just opening the equations and just look at the back propagation, how it's being calculated. So it's better to um, start a project-based learning. This is at least something that I usually love to do, because you would see the kind of outcome super quickly, and you can learn as you do the project itself. As you're doing those projects and learning about coding and implementation, you need to make sure that you understand a little bit of the foundations as stats and mathematics as needed. And um, like after learning more about machine learning and deep learning, I would say doing a couple of Kaggle competition will help to test your knowledge and test your um, skills. I'm not saying that Kaggle is equal to real life project. It is not, uh, and it will never be the same as working for Google or Microsoft. It's not the same. I don't know if Ian Lacombe has done any Kaggle competition, or maybe even Andrew Ng has done any Kaggle competitions. So that is not exactly equivalent to being a thought leader, but it's great way to start to challenge yourself with some relevant projects, right? And I would say from their understanding cloud infrastructure and cloud offerings is kind of mandatory right now. Most of our projects are um, either way working with cloud, either being implemented on cloud or using data sources from the cloud. So understanding them like Dockers and a little bit of how to, if you're using AWS, using SageMaker, or how to deploy your algorithms. These are the bits and pieces that you need to understand to make sure you can do end-to-end of your projects. And you are not necessarily reliant on anyone specifically in data engineering space or cloud space. And that's really good way to get into it. And then from there you need to just find your way through different pathways. I usually um, um, suggest to either start by NLP or computer vision. And I was a little bit stronger like last year when everybody asked me, it's like, what should I do? I was like, okay, pick either natural language processing, computer vision. And I've been asked, that's like, is it the whole AI space? And I'm saying, no, it's not the whole AI space, but it will help you to get a grip of something tangible, right? Get a grip of something that you will see the results pretty much quickly. There are lots of sources and resources available on different platforms that you can learn and accelerate in your career before understanding exactly what you want to do for your future. So it will help you not wasting time researching 3 months about what should I learn next. And as always, I say, you will find your way, you will know how to learn as you go through it. So I guess that's the kind of easiest way to come up with a pathway. It can be a fail safe. But also at the same time, I encourage people to be more experimental and adventurous as they start, because you have pretty much nothing to lose when you start, and you that's the best place to fail. You don't want to start and fail when you're like probably 50 or 60, and it's more difficult. It's kind of a phenomenon that make people super scared. So um, what whatever you're doing, just make sure that you have the courage to um, be a little bit more experimental. And also at the end of the suggestion, I'll always suggest to read um, some some of the articles that has been published recently, because that also will show you what is happening in the cutting edge, and where you are right now can be measured from there. It's like you can see how much of that thing you can understand and implement, and then you can have a good sense of um, yourself and your skills.
On a personal level, what are you working on? What are some of the projects that you have undertaken for the next year?
Super busy with couple of projects at the same time. So um, at ACS, I'm working full time for Australian Computer Society as a head of data science. This year and next year, we were doing data governance for ACS, which is a huge project, and I'm super excited about it. A little bit terrified as well. But at the same time, I'm also head of AI community development, which is an evangelist role, and we're kind of um, starting a new AI community in Australia, helping AI professionals and startups and academics getting together, making an ecosystem. So that's two main projects for me as my normal daily job. But then I also have a couple of side hustles. Um, Helping organizing hackathons will be one of them. I'm super excited and interested into organizing hackathons. And next year we're going to have the second global AI hackathon, uh, which is going to be probably around April. This year we managed to have um, the first event, which was highly engaged by AI and data science community. We had great judges and speakers lining up and helping the enthusiasts, which was a great outcome for me myself. And the next year, hopefully, we are going to have higher engagement and more quality thought leaders involved. And the last one is another side hustle of mine, making courses, couple of courses. Probably I've started with the LinkedIn Masterclass course, which is not a data science course at all. But there was a good reason to do that, because I've never seen um, a data scientist take on LinkedIn, and somebody from that kind of analytics mindset, understanding it and using it for his or her personal brand. Be it, we have seen usually marketing managers and marketing experts talking about it, and I thought there's a little bit of gap between what I understand and what I'm seeing out there as kind of I get tips and tricks and um, master classes that are available. So I thought that's a good idea to help people, especially technical people and those that want to be more engaged and kind of understand the thought leadership and brand awareness on social media, especially LinkedIn. It will be available very soon, but pre-sales are right now happening at this point.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your personal life. How did you get started with AI?
It's a kind of interesting story. Uh, by trade, I'm a software engineer. So I started as a bachelor of software engineering, uh, graduated from university and started as a software engineer, and then um, paved my way um, through the professional life, the senior and lead, um, and it was um, like 10 years during my um, I guess software engineering journey. uh, I was a senior tech lead and product manager for hospital information system product. And through that experience, I was responsible to make sure I can generate a lot of value from the information and data that we are capturing through the interactions with doctors and patients, which is huge amount of data points and, as you know, a lot of information about the medications and procedures are being stored in these kind of systems. And through my research, I found that this phenomenon of data analytics is a new terminology. I mean, back then, for me at least, it was a new terminology, and data science was kind of, I guess, being born. Um, and a lot of hype started around data science, taking the word by storm, and not many people identifying themselves as a data scientist. So I remember I searched on LinkedIn to see who is data scientist, and I want to just understand and follow these people. I mean, I can say probably 100 people who was identifying themselves to be data science professional. And by learning more about it, I found that I'm really interested to learn more and learn more and more and get into this world. And that was my passion all the time. I was working with databases and queries and SQL and generating um, um, some kind of report and insights from the data. And then from there went to university, did master of data analytics slash data science, because back then the universities um, um, would only have a major as a data analytics, and we just are seeing all the universities you know, having the data science as a course recently. And yeah, that was kind of my transition to more of a data world. And because I was a software engineer before, it was kind of um, a very easy and natural transition, learning more about bits and pieces of analytics. Yet coding is a major part of it, which I kind of had some experience with.